let the haters bring you down. Just keep going, keep chasing your passions and dreams no matter what. Do not let negative people get between you and your goals.
Puff was like, yeah, like first he was amping him to get style. Then he was like, yo, when we gonna get the chance to, to kick it? Like we can just hang out. We gotta kick it.
This is
Puff.
Okay.
You're telling me we gotta kick it and he's like, yo, why don't we like go shopping or some shit? I mean, like I pay for it. And I was like, what the just say? I got the away from him because I was like, this nigga. Wait, this nigga he take me shopping. And this is goes on. But there's a little fruit pile.
The internet lit up when the twins of Sean Combs suddenly found themselves at the center of a leak that nobody saw coming, and the shockwaves traveled straight into the direction of 50 Cent. What made the moment explode wasn't just the footage itself, but the timing, the tone, and the way it flipped a long-running narrative on its head. For years, 50 Cent has built a reputation as someone who stays 10 steps ahead, controlling the story before it controls him. This time, the script got snatched right out of his hands. The leak, which quickly spread across social platforms, painted a picture that felt raw, unpolished, and deeply uncomfortable for someone known for precision and dominance. Viewers didn't see confidence or control. They saw hesitation, awkward reactions, and moments that didn't match the ironclad image people expected. That contrast is exactly why it hit so hard. The twins didn't say much, but they didn't need to. The silence around the clip spoke louder than any statement ever could. Online commentary moved fast, framing the situation as a quiet power play rather than a loud attack. Instead of insults or threats, the leak worked like a mirror, reflecting back an image that fans weren't used to seeing.
Haters bring you down. Just keep going, keep chasing your passions and dreams no matter what. Do not let negative people get between you and your goals.
Suddenly, old jokes resurfaced, past interviews were replayed, and every confident quote from 50 Cent's history was measured against what people just watched. The energy shifted instantly. Supporters scrambled to defend him, critics celebrated, and casual viewers leaned in because the moment felt authentic, unscripted, and real. That authenticity is dangerous in a culture built on controlled personas. The twins, whether intentionally or not, positioned themselves as calm observers while chaos unfolded around them. There was no need for explanation, no need for follow-up. The leak did the talking. It reminded everyone that in the age of instant sharing, power doesn't always come from who speaks the loudest, but from who lets the camera roll at exactly the right moment. By the time the clip finished circulating, the damage was already done, and the conversation had shifted permanently. As the fallout continued, the conversation stopped being about the twins themselves and became entirely about what this moment meant for 50 Cent's carefully maintained image. The streets of the internet don't forget, and once a clip enters that space, it becomes a reference point forever.
Experienced with him were monster-like. That stuff almost destroyed my life.
Plus the hundreds of other accusers lining up to launch their own lawsuits.
This case is shocking. It is alarming. How many people came through his orbit? How many people could this have happened to? And how did he get away with it for so long?
Every future appearance, every confident statement, and every sharp comment now carries the weight of comparison. Commentators began pointing out how rare it is to see someone who usually thrives on confrontation appear caught off guard. That vulnerability became the headline. Instead of responding immediately, silence took over, and that silence only fueled speculation. Some interpreted it as strategy, others saw it as uncertainty, but either way, the narrative kept growing without his input. The twins, meanwhile, stayed completely detached, which only added to the perception that this wasn't an accident, but a quiet flex. In celebrity culture, humiliation doesn't always come from embarrassment alone, but from the lack of control over how a moment is perceived. That's where this situation landed. The leak didn't accuse, insult, or exaggerate. It simply existed, and that was enough. Fans who once admired the sharpness of 50 Cent's responses now debated whether the edge had dulled or if this was just a rare slip. The audience split into camps, with some calling it a temporary stumble and others framing it as a turning point. Algorithms pushed the clip further, reaction videos multiplied, and the moment became part of a larger storyline about influence, legacy, and who really holds the upper hand in modern media wars. What made it sting was how ordinary the moment looked. No dramatic setup, no dramatic ending, just a glimpse that felt too human for someone built on myth.
Invited me for weeks, asking me to come and teach him how to, wanted me to be his acting coach for a while. Go there and he's sitting around just looking. I'm like, okay, what's the material you want to work on? He's just looking at me. Then next thing you know, okay, hey, will you help me? I want to hear your music. So I come over there and I play the music. And he's sitting there, just looking at me, like waiting. Okay. So then my assistant was like, he wants to hang out with you next week. And I was like, for what? He's like, I think he's trying to fuck you. That's what my assistant said. And I was like, oh, okay. Now I get it. So now no more communication.
In a space where dominance is everything, looking uncomfortable can be more damaging than losing a public argument. Whether this moment fades or becomes a permanent stain depends on what comes next. But one thing is certain. The twins didn't need to say a word to shift the balance. The leak already did its job, and the internet made sure it would never disappear. The deeper this moment gets analyzed, the clearer it becomes that the real sting wasn't embarrassment, but exposure. For years, 50 Cent has operated like a chess player who always moves first, controlling narratives with humor, pressure, and perfect timing. This leak disrupted that rhythm in a way no public feud ever could. It stripped away preparation and replaced it with something far more dangerous in celebrity culture: unfiltered reality. The footage didn't show outrage or dominance, it showed discomfort, and that's a currency the internet trades aggressively. Analysts online quickly framed the situation as symbolic, suggesting the clip represented a shift in how power works in entertainment. Loud statements are no longer required when subtle moments can travel faster and hit harder. The twins' involvement added another layer because they didn't chase attention or escalate the moment. Their distance made it feel calculated, even if it wasn't. Fans started questioning whether this was a generational shift, where younger players understand the game differently and let optics do the work. Reaction channels broke down body language frame by frame, turning seconds of footage into hours of speculation. Every pause, glance, and silence was given meaning. That level of scrutiny transforms a simple leak into a permanent artifact. What made it worse was the absence of a clean counter. No joke could fully flip it. No statement could erase the image once it was burned into public memory. Supporters argued that everyone has off moments, but critics weren't interested in balance. They were interested in contrast. A man known for relentless confidence suddenly appeared human, and that clash fed the algorithm endlessly. In hip-hop culture, image has always been armor, and once a crack appears, people rush to test it. The conversation drifted from the clip itself to questions about legacy, relevance, and whether dominance built on intimidation can survive in a media era obsessed with vulnerability. Some framed the leak as unfair, others as inevitable, but almost nobody dismissed it. That's the real damage. When a moment refuses to fade, it becomes part of the brand whether invited or not. The twins didn't declare victory, but the silence that followed felt louder than any celebration. In a space where perception is everything, that silence reshaped the room completely. As days passed, the narrative hardened into something more permanent, less about shock and more about recalibration. Media outlets stopped calling it a surprise and started treating it like a reference point, something to be mentioned whenever 50 Cent's name comes up in discussions about control and influence. That's how reputational shifts happen, not with explosions, but with repetition. Each mention reinforces the association, and soon the moment feels bigger than it ever was in real time. Industry insiders began hinting that moments like this are warnings, reminders that visibility cuts both ways. The same platforms that amplify dominance also magnify vulnerability without mercy. The twins' role continued to feel almost symbolic, representing a generation raised in a landscape where cameras are constant and restraint is strategic. By not responding loudly, they allowed the narrative to mature on its own. Silence became sophistication. Meanwhile, debates flared about whether 50 Cent should respond at all. Some believed a sharp comeback could flip the script, while others warned that engaging would only cement the image further. That hesitation created a vacuum, and the internet filled it instantly. Memes emerged, not cruel, but persistent, recycling the moment until it felt unavoidable. What once might have been a forgettable clip turned into a cultural checkpoint. Fans started comparing it to past moments in hip-hop history, where perception quietly shifted without anyone realizing it at first. The difference now is speed. There's no slow burn, only immediate saturation. Every reaction compounds the original impact. Even attempts to downplay it fed the machine. That's the paradox of modern celebrity. Control requires participation, but participation risks distortion. The twins, intentionally or not, demonstrated mastery of that paradox. They let the moment breathe, and in doing so, allowed public interpretation to do the work. For 50 Cent, the challenge now isn't defending against criticism, but redefining momentum. The clip can't be erased, but its meaning can evolve. Whether it becomes a footnote or a defining contrast depends entirely on what follows. History shows that powerful figures survive moments like this not by denying them, but by reframing them through action. Until that happens, the leak remains suspended in public consciousness, replayed whenever confidence is questioned. It stands as a reminder that in the digital era, humiliation doesn't need commentary. Sometimes, all it needs is a camera, timing, and silence. By this stage, the situation had grown beyond a viral clip and evolved into a broader commentary on how quickly power dynamics can flip in the public eye. What once felt like a momentary slip now started to resemble a checkpoint in an ongoing narrative, one where perception mattered more than intention. For years, 50 Cent built his presence on anticipation, keeping opponents guessing and audiences entertained by staying unpredictable. This time, unpredictability worked against him. The clip circulated without context, and context never caught up. Analysts and fans alike began dissecting not just the footage, but the silence that followed, interpreting it as either restraint or recalculation. In entertainment culture, silence rarely stays neutral. It becomes a canvas for speculation, and speculation fills itself with whatever the audience wants to see. Supporters framed the moment as overblown, arguing that one uncomfortable second doesn't erase decades of dominance. Critics countered by saying dominance is fragile and that cracks only need to appear once to be remembered forever. That back and forth fueled engagement, keeping the story alive longer than anyone expected. Meanwhile, the twins associated with Sean Combs remained completely outside the noise. Their absence from commentary became part of the story itself, reinforcing the idea that restraint can sometimes feel more powerful than confrontation. Each repost, each reaction video, and each headline subtly shifted the balance further away from damage control and toward legacy discussion. When a moment starts being framed in terms of what it represents instead of what actually happened, it stops being temporary. It becomes symbolic. That's where this landed. The footage began to represent vulnerability in a space that rarely tolerates it, especially from figures known for control. The irony is that the clip wasn't dramatic. There was no explosion, no argument, no chaos. Its power came from how ordinary it looked. That ordinariness challenged the myth. And once a myth is challenged, it never fully recovers its original shape. Whether intentional or accidental, the moment exposed how much modern influence depends on optics rather than actions. In that sense, the humiliation people debated wasn't just personal, it was structural. It showed how fast the spotlight can turn and how little it cares about past victories when something new captures attention. As the dust settled, one truth became impossible to ignore. Moments like this don't end, they just evolve. The clip stopped trending, but it didn't disappear. It quietly embedded itself into the larger cultural archive, ready to resurface whenever confidence, authority, or control became part of the conversation again. That's how modern narratives work. They linger beneath the surface, waiting for relevance. For 50 Cent, the road forward isn't about erasing the moment, because erasure no longer exists in digital culture. It's about redefining what the moment means. History has shown that reputations aren't destroyed by single instances, but reshaped by how those instances are absorbed and responded to over time. Some fans already began reframing the situation, suggesting that restraint itself could become part of the image, a sign of maturity rather than weakness. Others weren't ready to move on, continuing to replay the footage as proof that even the most calculated figures can be caught off guard. That split ensured the clip remained alive in discussion spaces, even when newer controversies took the spotlight. The twins' role stayed quietly significant, not because of what they said, but because of what they didn't. In an era obsessed with reaction, their lack of response stood out as intentional or instinctive mastery of timing. It highlighted a shift where silence, distance, and patience can outweigh confrontation. This wasn't a loud victory or a public defeat, but a lesson in how narratives are now shaped less by statements and more by moments. The audience didn't need explanation. They formed conclusions instantly, and those conclusions hardened with repetition. Whether this becomes a footnote or a defining contrast will depend entirely on what follows, not what already happened. Momentum can still change, but it requires action strong enough to overwrite memory, not argue with it. Until then, the leak remains a quiet reference point, a reminder that the camera never blinks and the internet never forgets. If this breakdown helped connect the dots and added clarity to the situation, make sure to show support by hitting like and subscribe, because more stories like this are always on the way.